That's the biggest sacrifice that I've made in my life because I knew once that transition was made in an actual pro environment, whether it may be NBA or whether it may be a top A league in Europe. What's good, world? What's good? It's your boy Smitty. I am your host for the Daddyball Show. A lot of y'all might want to know what the Daddyball Show is all about. This is not about the dads hooting and hollering about who ain't getting the ball and why my son ain't get this and that. No, we getting a real breakdown on how to help your kids get to the next level. The next level, what is that? We talking about college. We talking about pro. We giving you the real in-depth breakdown of that. We're going to have co-hosts. We're going to have a lot of guests that's going to give us their perspectives of things. But at the end of the day, it's an open platform for you to have an opportunity to speak your voice as parents, right? We hear everything from the agents, the coaches, the players, from even the trainers. But what about the parents, right? So we're going to give you that opportunity. This is a Daddy Ball show that's focused around parents wanting to know how to get their kids to the next level, what they need to do it, and what steps they need to take to get to that next point. But you can't get those steps without knowing who actually is the host, right? So let's get down to the nitty gritty, man. My name is Travis Smith. You can also call me Smitty. That's my nickname. I hail from the great Columbus, Georgia. Former athlete myself. Played, you name it, football, basketball, baseball. But ultimately, my success came from the basketball court. A lot of the basketball success that I came from was not within the time frame that we're living in now, right? I come from a time frame where there was no social media. There was no YouTube. There was no huddle. So we had to get it out the mud. I'm sure a lot of y'all that may be viewing this can relate to that, right? So I want to make sure people understand what I went through coming up through the ropes of playing multiple sports, particularly starting out in high school. I come from a very football dominant city. We got a lot of pro guys that came out of our area, a lot of guys from Jasper, Saints, Philly, Will. I'm naming just a very few of them, right? With that said, some things in my life happened to me that really changed my trajectory of where I would go in my life for sports. Ninth grade, going to 10th grade, just to be honest with you, man, I had the opportunity to play football. I was very athletic, you know what I'm saying? I was able to, run a 4.3, had a 40-inch vert, and my life changed right before my eyes, playing in a rinky-dink summer league basketball game, man, where someone went up under me and I fractured my skull. So instead of me having the opportunity to play high school football and flourish and be successful at that, I had to sit down with my dad, Coach Flowers, and the athletic program, and I was informed the bad news that because of my fractured skull, they had fear that there would be other injuries that can happen to me, and they didn't want me to play that year. So, football was out the window. You know what I mean? Just imagine being in those type of steps, right? Being in that position where you had aspiration of being the best football player you can be. You were good at basketball. You could run track, but you wanted to play with your boys. You wanted to play football. They just won state. Things happen in your life, and you just don't know how to capitalize and persevere through that, right? Man, so much was happening in my life, man, before I turned 18 years old, man. You talking about a fractured skull. My life changed before my eyes, man. Lost my sense of smell. Lost my sense of taste. 2 years later, one of the top players in the country in basketball. Didn't play football, but excelled in basketball. And then I tear my ACL doing something I had no business even doing. Transferring from my high school over to a private school. All my friends about to graduate. I'm going to a smaller school. So I'm feeling left out. I'm lost. I lost all my offers. I don't know what to do, man. And then out of nowhere, the Citadel offers me. The fuck is the Citadel? I ain't never heard of the school. Shout out to Clyde Wormley, by the way. He went there from Spencer, man. But I never heard of the school. I did a little research on it. I found out one of my teammates for the Atlanta Celtics, Warren McClendon, was going there. And I'm like, Warren, what he doing going there? Like, hold on. He player of the year in 3A, had 95 offers from you name it. Like, why would he go to the who is this daddy? Who is the Citadel? Like, talk to me. I'm thinking about Citadel, and I found out like it's a military college. It's a military college, but it was a D1 school in the Southern Conference. You had Georgia Southern, College of Charleston, UNC Greensboro. Okay, so they got a couple names. But man, I'm 17, about to be 18, man. I want to go to Duke, bro. I want to go to fucking North Carolina. Man. I want to go to Georgia Tech, man. Daddy, I don't want to do this, man. Bro, you better figure it out. Come on, for real? I only had 3 Division I offers getting out of high school. After prayer, after taking my official visits, you know, I took a deep breath and I said, I'm going to go ahead and go to the Citadel. Going into the Citadel, I'm a freshman. I think I can start. I think I'm better than every guard that's out there. I'm injury free. I'm back to 100%. I'm jumping out the gym. My jump shot looking good. I feel great. But it's a military school. So psychologically, I'm trying to just be a basketball player and an athlete, but it's a lot of dynamics of being an athlete and a cadet at a school that really don't want me there. I ended up progressing. I did well. I set a record. You know what I'm saying? 25 points in the second half against Wofford. Brought them boys back to get the win. Nobody's seen that at the Citadel before as a freshman, right? Like you can Google that right now. You feel me? As you go toward being a freshman and your friends are at other schools, you don't have a transfer portal. We don't live in the now. We live back then. We didn't have the resources that a lot of people have today. I finished it out. I thugged it out. Freshman year is complete. Citadel was a challenge for me. But I want to take a deep dive into the sacrifices I had to make, man, while I was there, man. This is a school that was very heavily involved into being a cadet, building integrity, being, you know, an individual that was really driven on discipline. And during that time frame, as an athlete, as a student, as a cadet, I had a son on the way, which is Travis Smith Jr. that you may know of today. That changed everything for me because obviously, you know, you couldn't have kids there. I'm 20 years old. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out what my next, you know, chapter going to be collegiately as an athlete. And I knew I couldn't stay there if I wanted to have some impact on my son. So I decided to transfer. This ain't today's transfer process where my name goes into the portal and teams is drooling all over me. I had to really sit down with my dad and say, Dad, like, man, I'm not happy here. I need to figure out what the next pace is going to be. Where am I going to go? After deep thought, after some visits, we decided to go to Atlanta, which is obviously where my son was born. That's the biggest sacrifice that I made in my life because I knew once that transition was made, it would slow down the momentum of me playing pro in an actual pro environment, whether it may be NBA or whether it may be a top A league in Europe or in China. So that right there alone was the biggest, you know, sacrifice that I had to take in my life when Travis Smith Jr. was born. So, you know, obviously kind of balancing out my personal life and trying to be a father and doing the best I can with that, man. I'm a competitor. Just like any other father that may have played sports, he puts his kids in sports, right? I think around 7 or 8, man, I really realized how special Travis would be, man, in sports. Initially, he was a better basketball player than he was football. He had the size already. He had big hands. He had big feet. He was just an athletic kid. So it really dawned on me like, you know what? Let me start getting him involved in football. I think football might be a real good sport for him to really exhilarate his athletic ability. From the gate, man, I'm talking about, you may see him now with the big calf muscles. Even when he was 7 and 8 years old, he had big ass calf muscles, bro. So it's like, I'm sure some of the parents can relate to this. When did it hit y'all? Like, when did y'all realize that y'all son was gonna be that guy? Like, you knew he was gonna be something special, even if nobody else saw it. When did it hit y'all? I'm telling you, when he was in the 2nd and 3rd grade, I saw it. I was like, he ain't getting a shot over here. We took him over to Welcome All. Welcome All, shout out to Welcome All guys back in that time. He just wasn't given a fair shot. And I kept telling them, I'm telling y'all gonna regret this. But again, that's where the other term of the daddy ball gets in term. Daddy ball becomes, that's my boy, I'm going to let him get the shine. So again, it all boiled back down to sacrificing. Travis ended up doing some very special things with me keeping a tight rope on him with going to these leagues in Cobb County and various leagues where he can be that guy. You know what I'm saying? I think it's important to have your kid in a situation where he's able to play with talent, but also helping him train with the best of the best. So during those time frames before he got to high school, I had him around some of the best guys in the city. I had him with Raul King. And I have to give a special shout out to him because he put the light bulb on us to realize how skillful he could be as he got older. We did everything we could to get him to the point that he was at going into high school. 8th grade hit, we're in Cobb County. We knew we didn't want to go to certain high school, so I rolled the dice and I decided to put him into Westlake. Westlake High School, everybody knows, had the best of the best athletes. May have had a fluctuation of coaches, but Cam Newton, Pac-Man Jones, AJ Terrell, the list goes on, man. So many pro athletes around that school. So I took a step out on faith and I put him in an environment where he was going to be challenged. Within the transition of him going to high school, going to Westlake, whole nother side of town, we knew it was some dogs that was going to really challenge him and help him reach to that next level. I noticed another big change in Travis, and that was his size. Travis went from being 5'8", 5'9", to being 6'2". He pretty much taller than me, my height, by the 9th grade. He had all the physical attributes to really show that he has a chance to make it to the next level one day. But I think the most important factor and the most important part about all of that is putting him in a position where he was in camps, he was in different environments that challenged him around kids that were older, that were already into that next level. The biggest reason behind me being into the position I'm in that got him where it was just networking, being around different parents that already had kids who were already in college or made a pro. Shout out to Javon Baker dad. I'm naming people, y'all. I got people that I'm going to have here as, guests. He told me this, and I'm going to never forget this. Javon Baker was on the cusp of going to Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Was at McEachern High School. I remember seeing him training, and he was about 4 or 5 years older than Travis. I was like, man, who's his dad? Who's his mom? And I never forget meeting his dad. He said, man, I think my son going to be a great player one day. I hope he goes to a big Power 4 school. He's only in the 9th grade. At the time, Trav was just getting in middle school. He said, but if I can leave one thing with you, which ended up being in hindsight later on, was hit that road, bro. And it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me yet, but he just told me, he said, if I can tell you one thing, any other parents that's trying to guide their children to that next level, you got to sacrifice. You got to put them in the right environment for training, put them in the right environment for, these skill camps and things of that sort. But hit that motherfucking road. And that's what set with me. That's why these camps became so pivotal. That's why when the schools came to me and were asking me, why are you taking them to Bama? Why are you taking them to Georgia, Ohio State? I did that because if I wasn't going to put him in a position to go to these camps, he was just going to be waiting on a mid-major Power 4, Power 5 school to help him get those offers. So that's where the sacrifices tie into being Daddy Ball. It's a bigger message behind Daddy Ball. It's not about controlling the narrative. It's about doing what others who we normally depend on can't do. That's sacrificing by putting them in a position that they can get seen and so they can get the opportunities for them to make it to the next level. That's Daddy Ball. So in hindsight, look at everything that happened within that time frame in high school, man. When all the people was telling him to transfer to this big school or this big school, that big school, kids transferring, kids being put out because the school was overpopulated. We stood the test of time. He had over 50 offers from Power 4 schools. 50. Narrowed it down to 4. 4 of the top schools in the SEC. You had Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Coach Heupel, you name it. All these coaches is coming to his school to see him. And what happens? He commits to the University of Tennessee. You can't make up a better story than that. All of that was based around all of those intricate steps that we took to get him the exposure he needed, to get him to these camps, to get him the training, to get him to all these different resources for him to get to the position that he's in today. And in closing, y'all, I just want y'all to understand something. This is not a show that's singular and based upon dads. This is about parents. This is about, you may have a young female athlete who's a star in track and field, who's aspiring to be a tennis player. There are challenges we all have to try to help get our children to the next level. So we're going to have a great opportunity to really explain that process, talk about our challenges in this new landscape of social media and distractions and things like that. I want people to understand something here. We are going to allow all walks of life for parents, guardians, and what have you to express what they're going to be going through when it comes to getting to that next level. Last but not least, if you want to reach me, Daddyball Show, Instagram, Daddyball Show 101, YouTube. Hit the link below. Y'all be good to go.